You're listening to episode 110 of Present Moment. Welcome to Present Moment, Mindfulness, Practice, and Science. I'm Ted Meissner. Present Moment is a podcast with interviews, conversations, and roundtable discussions. We speak with mindfulness teachers about their newest findings published in peer-reviewed science journals, teachers about their understanding and methods as they work with students of mindfulness, authors about their books and interests, and we also speak with everyday practitioners. The website presentmomentmindfulness.com has show notes for each episode along with resource materials. Emma Frowine joins us to speak about the upcoming free online Mindful Eating Summit. Many of you have participated in the raisin exercise. For many, this is the first taste, forgive my word choice, of mindful eating. With it, you engage all of your senses, expansively receiving the perhaps surprising variety of ways to notice, connect, and really investigate eating a raisin in ways likely never considered. I mean, honestly, how many of us have listened to raisin sounds with full attention before? To me, that's one of the most rewarding aspects of mindfulness, especially when applied to food, is the tremendously enhanced experience. And that experience has much to teach, too, as we learn to listen more closely to how our bodies respond to food. Emma Frowine is a health and wellness life coach, passionate about helping others transform their being and take authority in their life. As a result of her own journey, Emma deepened her mindfulness practice, which continues to transform her mind and make nutritional changes that drastically elevate her health and well-being. Her own change was so uplifting that she now dedicates herself to helping others achieve the same growth. Emma incorporates mindfulness, nutrition, and fitness into her teachings. Our guest today is Emma Frowine. Emma, welcome to the podcast. Glad to see you.
Hi, Tim. So wonderful to connect with you as well.
So we have quite a few things we're going to cover tonight. So let's start by having you tell us about your background.
Sure. Yeah, I have an interesting background, I guess, that brought me to mindfulness. Mindfulness is on the front and end. In the middle, I got lost a little bit. But I was born to legitimate hippies. My mom was a flower child. Like, they lived in a school bus, showered in cow troughs, very open mind, beautiful people. And I lived in rural Ohio, had Amish friends. Like, I had an interesting upbringing. And I decided to kind of run in the opposite direction, as many teens do. Like, after playing that game with my parents for a while, I'm just going to take a hard right and go completely the opposite direction and join the Marine Corps. My parents were pretty mortified when their middle child decided to go join the Marine Corps, but I did, and had a wonderful time for over a decade, 13 years. I was in the Marine Corps in logistics and engineering. And it was a tremendous career for me. I mean, I learned a lot. I grew as a professional, but it also was an environment that allowed me to continue to suppress a lot of my emotional self. So I say it was an environment that allowed me to be a chameleon, to just show up in the colors that were suiting of the mission and excel, but continue to suppress what I didn't really want to tap into, the emotions and the inner intelligence that is there to help us. So for 15 years nearly, I just kind of suppressed, and did real well in the Marine Corps until all areas of my life just completely started to crumble. And I'm pretty strong-willed, so I think I made it a long time in an on-off balanced way of living before the universe was like, Emma, it's time to face the world and show up more authentically. So everything just started to crumble. Relationships, career, like me as a person, my physical health. And I really was at rock bottom and looking outwardly for an answer to fix my problems. I was looking for the magic pill, for the 3-step process, for the quick fix, like what do I do to just get back to where I was? And so, I mean, just that road alone was probably a year of me searching outside myself for the answer before I finally accepted that I just had to stop trying. I just had to sit down, go inside, try a little less, accept that I didn't have the answers, but I had all the questions, and go with it. So mindfulness became a huge part of my recovery process.
How did you first run across mindfulness? I'm curious how that came up in your searching.
Right. So, I mean, as a child, it was in my world. I mean, my parents were a little bit mindful in their practice and their approach to life. And then I know my dad went through a period of time that was a little rocky with us, the children, and he took us all to Kripalu, the yoga meditation facility in Massachusetts, which is phenomenal. So I think I was 13 when I first went to Kripalu with my dad. And so I was always into yoga and physical fitness. But I approached yoga like from a very aggressive, physically challenging perspective, completely void of the whole purpose of yoga, right? To get to meditation. And so even that first visit to Kripalu, I was like, this is all great, but we need to do more. Let's do more. Let's do headstands. But I was at least surrounded by that community and deeply touched by that community, like as a teenager. So I think that's where I was introduced to it. So it was familiar. And then actually in the Marine Corps, I think the Marine Corps has done a great job of incorporating mindfulness in the Wounded Warrior Regiment now. So we have, where I am, the Intrepid Spirit facility, which is just, I mean, the Navy runs it for the Marine Corps, but it is beautiful. They have MBSR, iRest, yoga. It's just beautiful. It's a wonderful facility, and it's all around mindfulness to help with PTSD and just being more aware. So I met a bunch of people at that facility. I pretty much exhausted all the programs the Marine Corps had because I was interested in it. But I think I approached it again from a philosophy of like, where's the answer? So I'm like, okay, I did MBSR, got it, next. I did iRest, got it, next. I've done yoga, got it, next. Instead of, maybe absorbing as much as I had to. So that's how it was introduced to me, through those different platforms and over a period of 20 years probably. But finally, after like doing all that and then finding stillness and accepting that there was no quick fix out for the external world, like outside myself, that I had to go inside to get there, it just took on a whole new meaning for me. So I had all these tools. I have a bunch of books, I have courses on CDs. I mean, I have all the information, but I just had to relax into it a little bit and also find the discipline of a regular practice. So that's what helped me a lot. But I mean, so that all took me to a new place in my career. So I had been in the military for almost 15 years and felt very off balance while I was there, but it still gave me a lot of tools. And so since then, I have dove into health and wellness, which has really kind of always been a part of me. And so now I do like wellness coaching. And so for 10 years, I've done that as in terms of a personal trainer and nutrition perspective. But in recent years, I've really started to incorporate mindfulness into that because it was such a huge journey for me. And quite frankly, it was so hard for me. I was such a bad student, I mean, it doesn't have to be this hard. So
remember that non-judgment thing part of mindfulness.
I need to always be reminded of this non-judgment. Yes. Judgment, noting. But it was very difficult for me. And so I guess my hope in my community is to start bringing awareness to this idea that there's another way. There's another way to get where we want to go. There's another angle, and mindfulness is that angle.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. It is an interesting story because it is so convoluted that I've had guests who were your hippie parents. That was their generation and their culture and the children of them. And they've kind of stayed in that and were raised with it. And others who have a military background or law enforcement or other areas that are maybe just starting to edge into, okay, what's this stuff about? What's it like? And finding that there can be some things to learn, some things that may be helpful to them in jobs that can be stressful in very different ways than the average person or person who are not in careers of military or law enforcement or other areas like that would ever encounter. So I thank you so much for sharing about that. And I want to ask about, so it sounds like you shifted into health and wellness, and now there's mindful eating. And so one of the questions I want to ask you about that is if you see that there's maybe a clarifying difference, a way to distinguish what is meant by mindful eating that's different from, say, dieting, which is another and perhaps in some ways overlapping way of engaging with food.
Sure. And that is a great question. So dieting is just an ugly word full of negative connotations and restrictions and limitations, and often associated with failure. It's also an external solution, right? There typically are, this is the one size fit all approach. Everyone should do this and you will be healthy and fit and have a six pack. So dieting is not realistic. We know that we as humans resist restriction. It doesn't really work with our brains. If you tell us we can't have a chocolate cake, we maybe never wanted that chocolate cake, but my goodness, now that we can't have it, we want it. So restrictions are just not effective. And so mindful eating is starkly different from that. So, I mean, the way I like to define it is paying attention to what you're eating, and why you're eating it and how it affects you, all of you, as you're eating it with all your senses. And the idea that if we can really connect with ourselves, our body, how food makes us feel, and even before that, what we might be hungry for or craving, then we don't need diets because our body knows what we need. I mean, it's crazy, but I mean, sometimes you are craving a certain food because you need the nutrients that are in that food and your body knows it. So that's the difference. I mean, it's not about restriction. It's not about limitation. And it's not about, you're allowed to eat ice cream. You can indulge. Like mindful eating allows you to indulge and love delicious food. You just do it with attention and intention and awareness of how it's affecting your body.
So that's led you to do something called the Mindful Eating Summit. Tell us about how that idea first started. What's the story behind that?
Sure. Yeah, I am so excited about this. So as I've started to work with more and more people, the tendency is the same. Like I've noticed we all want to look better. We all want to feel better. And lots of people want to lose weight. And they're looking for an answer on the outside, right? A diet or an external structure that they can fall into to help them do that. And I can relate with that. That was my story. So I can totally understand searching for the answer. My hope with this summit is to attract that community, which a lot of it is who I work with largely, and gently show them a different platform to achieve those same goals. And it's a slow moving boat to bring the idea of mindfulness and less structure into that arena. But I think it's so huge. So as I said, I'm passionate about nutrition and I've been in fitness for years, but I really wanted to incorporate the two. I really wanted to incorporate mindfulness into that. And I thought the gateway, if you will, to mindfulness was mindful eating. Because truly it is just a gateway. As you go into mindful eating, what you're truly learning is mindfulness. And it's starting your mindful practice. But it's a gateway in. It's a smaller step to get there. So yeah, I've put together this summit, which I've never done before. So it's a lot of fun. And I've reached out to some amazing experts. 21 is the number I've chose. Doctors and folks that have written books They've worked with hundreds of thousands of people and helped them in their journey to mindfulness and mindful eating. And honestly, thus far, I mean, just the interview process has been so rewarding. Oh my gosh. Like I've been in tears from motivation and inspiration with some of the just beautiful speakers we have, because this is such a wonderful community. The mindful community is just beautiful. I mean, I love my Marine Corps community, but it's very different. Right? It's just very different. So it's been wonderful. Just the process of connecting with all these experts has been wonderful. But the summit will air on the 23rd of April. And the idea, it's a free summit. The idea is that I just send out an interview a day to stimulate thought, provoke ideas, to bring awareness to new concepts. I mean, I've always loved podcasts because that's exactly what they do for me. They just stimulate creative thought. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to create with the Mindful Eating Summit.
And it's interesting, you can reach, as you were speaking, a few different kinds of communities. It's not just people who are already, like listeners of this podcast, they're interested in mindfulness. And this is something that's an aspect of that domain, but also the wellness folks that you work with, and also those who are either dieting now or they've tried it and hasn't worked for them. It's something else for them to engage with as another way to reckon with eating and their relationship to it and how that can change. And as you said, kind of get them into noticing the rest of their lives, which is really a key part of it.
Right. Well, and like you said, so I see myself as the bridge between those two worlds. So I have been on a mindfulness journey for a decade at least, but truly like dedicated to it for maybe 5 years. So I still consider myself a novice. Like I'm by no means an expert in mindfulness, but I'm passionate about it. And I know that it has changed my life. So with that awareness, I feel like I can reach out and connect with the experts, which I have. I have some just amazing people, but I also can reach over here and connect with, like you said, everybody else who maybe hasn't incorporated mindfulness into their life, maybe have heard the word but aren't really like receptive to it yet, or maybe not even interested in it. But coming at this platform of mindful eating, I think is a gateway into it.
So shifting a little bit into some of just your personal experience with this, what are some of the hard parts for you in putting this together? Are there any surprises or things that you're learning that were unexpected?
Sure. That's I think there's been challenges for sure. And it's ironically all challenges in and around my mindful practice. I think I became aware that I had done all the research, I had done all the readings, I had done all these courses on mindfulness. I had a bunch of knowledge. And I started to become aware that the next step for me was to give some of that back in trying to teach others or show them how it affected my life. It ups the game for me in my learning and growth. So that's kind of what this does. This Mindful Eating Summit, or me trying to put it all together, has done for me. Like it's added definitely some anxiety and stress, which is an opportunity for me to come back into a mindful practice and feel that and be aware of where it's coming from. It's brought up a bunch of limiting beliefs for me again, like, oh, is it going to be good enough? Are people going to like me? Are people going to listen? So limiting beliefs have risen again, which again is an opportunity to face them.
Your inner critic was also working out with you and staying healthy.
Sure. My inner critic is very strong. That inner critic is not a personality, and it's always there. So yeah, it's given me a lot of opportunity in mindfulness, sure. And then to get, back into like a professional organization of juggling a bunch of different balls. I've kind of been out of that game for a while. I think some of the techie stuff, like I definitely have had to reach out and get some help because, I have not done this before. It's new for me. So I've had to go to some people who have done it before, and I've received great support and assistance. I mean, it's amazing. If you put your intent out there, the universe is going to line it up for you and you're going to get all the help you need.
So what's your hope for those who will join the sessions? What are you expecting, or what are your aspirations around what they might come away with?
My hope is to give them an aha moment that, maybe I don't need to conform to a structure or an outside program or somebody else's idea of what right looks like. maybe I'm curvy and that's okay. Maybe this is how my body wants to be. Maybe this is me. I would hope that people start to see that that's possible, to tap into the inner wisdoms that the body already has, and to settle into that and accept that it's there. I mean, I know for my journey, it was very difficult for me to find faith and the courage to accept that I just didn't know everything. So I'm hoping to shorten that experiential timeline for others who might listen to the podcast, hear these, or rather my summit, and hear from all these different speakers, from different angles. And maybe it will just give them that aha moment. Like, wow, okay, maybe I do have the answers. Maybe I just have to tap into myself and let my internal wisdom guide me.
Beautifully said. Anything else you want to share with the listeners?
I want to say thank you for having me on the podcast. This has been awesome. I love how you incorporate science and mindfulness. That definitely, for me, was another huge trigger that got me on the mindful bandwagon, if you will. The science in the last 30 years have just completely proven that mindfulness is changing our brain. I mean, it really was helpful for me in my practice. So I love what you do. And I would just invite people to check out the Mindful Eating Summit and join us if they're interested.
Great. Thank you. Our guest today, Emma Frowine. You can find out more on the link that we'll have on the episode page for this episode for more information about the summit. Emma, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Ted. Bye.
Thanks for listening. If you'd like to learn more about something you've heard in today's podcast, please come visit the website at presentmomentmindfulness.com. You'll find an entire webpage devoted to this and every episode. You can comment on the episode page and find show notes and other helpful resources for your mindfulness practice. The shakuhachi music heard on Present Moment is used by permission and through the generosity of musician Rodrigo Rodriguez. His website is linked on the Present Moment website on the About Podcast Music page. Sound editing, mixing, and mastering provided by the generosity of Anthony Dominello of StructureFromSound.com. Until next time, remember, every moment you have a choice. Make it the best you can. See you next time on Present Moment.